All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Chiefs Podcast Network. I'm Jaden Varner, along with my good friend Jacob Handy. Jacob, how are you doing?
Doing good today. Doing good.
That's good. Well, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're going to go primarily the defense, starting off with a couple additions that the Chiefs made. Defensive end Matt Dickerson joining them, and then just earlier today, they go and get defensive tackle Danny Shelton, who I believe last played with the Giants. So he's a pretty decent run stuffer guy. So what do you think of those two acquisitions?
I think it's a good thing. I believe our depth has has gotten thinner. We had a guy we got from the Colts that got hurt with a knee contusion. I think that's a good piece with hopefully potential to show what he had at New England and if he goes back to what he did for the Browns, I'll be super excited. But I'm hoping somewhere in between the New England and the Giants. That's probably more realistic. A good a good in between of that where he's good enough to play like 5 to 10 snaps.
Right. And primarily he's been a run stopping D tackle, and he's been pretty good at that. Not a lot of sacks, not a very good pass rusher. I believe in his total of his career, he has, I think, four combined sacks. Then we take a look at, yeah, it's a little bit demoralizing. He's got four total sacks, but, you know,
Yeah.
then you take a
Well,
look
well,
at the defensive end we go and get, and Matt Dickerson, who's played 3 years, hasn't seen a lot of playing time. I believe he has somewhere between 15 total tackles, and I think the highest was like seven solo. So he's hadn't had much playing time, but he offers some sort of depth of piece that they seem to like anyway.
yeah, it's interesting. They both went after D tackle. I'm not sure if they're concerned about injuries as far as is it injury related, is it depth related, or is it just to have bodies for preseason? Because it's really interesting. They did all this a few days before the first preseason game. What do you think?
It is kind of interesting, and it also came at the expense of getting rid of Shalik Calhoun, who has had pretty decent amount of NFL experience. I believe he had two total sacks and I believe about one season of actually getting playing times. And they take Matt Dickerson and favor him. I think there's something that they see in Matt Dickerson that there's a good reason that they got him before the preseason ended because they wanted to see how he would fit in with what the defense looks like. So that one's I'm pretty excited to see. I don't know a whole lot about him. This is about the first time
I'm,
I've heard about him, but
I agree. I'm not too. I don't know too much about them, but I definitely will keep an eye on because it's definitely interesting that they signed two D tackles. So
yeah, and another interesting, they started moving Mike Dana on the inside, playing D tackle reps. So they really seem to want to emphasize that defensive tackle group, and they go get someone else
I've
in a
even seen
rotation.
Carl Office. I've also seen Carl Office getting reps at uh, at three tech.
Yeah, and
Well,
I think that they prefer having their edge rushers come inside as opposed to someone like Tris Jones going outside. We saw how that went last year. That was a terrible experiment.
yeah, I'm wondering. What do you think? Do you think they're going to try that again? That experience again?
I think that they do, but not in the sense of like that's his plan to start there, because their goal was that's what they drafted him to be, was like an edge rusher DN guy when he was a rookie, and he did that for about 2 seasons. Then they're like, we'll put him inside, and that's where he's done really well. Then they try to put him back outside after a couple seasons, and they're like, yeah, that didn't work. So
Yeah,
that
hopefully they'll keep him in one spot. Hopefully he stays healthy. But
yeah,
a thing I'm excited to see is all this length, getting pass blocks at the D line. You have Dunlap, who who is amazing at doing that, and then you got Chris Jones is really good at that. And I wonder if they're going to teach old Carl Office to do the same.
yeah, and what's really great is that Frank Clark and Dunlap have both stayed after practice and mentored the younger guys, which means more to the team in general than anything else because Dunlap probably is going to have a little bit more production in terms of sacks than maybe Frank Clark will. and he certainly has to this point. Now, maybe Frank Clark comes out of nowhere this year and has, another 10 sack season, which I believe he's only done twice in his career up to this point. So that could be something to look forward to. But speaking of the defensive line and kind of the mentorship, Joe Cullen, the defensive line coach they go and get from the Jags, so far the impact he's made on these defensive linemen and George Karlaftis specifically, but the way that he gets talked about by like Chris Jones and Dunlap is it's almost exciting to hear that kind of intensity that he can bring to practices.
We definitely needed something new. I do like what he did with, Josh Allen. No one was really, talking about Josh Allen being an all-star, and he goes there for one season, and Josh Allen explodes, and that's the edge rusher, Josh Allen. He explodes. So, and I hope that he could do that with Carl Office. But it'll definitely be interesting to see if that's something he can do, is to watch someone and see who will make that rise. And I'll be, like I said, I'll be excited to see.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of good things about Karlaftis. He's certainly working on his ability to get around tackles instead of just, brute forcing, which is what he did a lot of in college. And that was kind of a main concern a lot of teams had with him. But, it's a steal that the Kansas City got him at 30. And another great player that we drafted that we ended up trading to go get was Trent McDuffie. And obviously, or, Trenterception McClamps, as we hope to call him.
Oh my God. Yeah, I love that nickname. It is going to stick. Trust me. We're going to make it.
We're going to make it stick. Yeah. Trenterception McClamps. We'll put it on the hoodie, t-shirt, jersey, whatever we got to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, he especially today, he has he has shown the ability to get pass blocks and interceptions. And I've noticed that they've been keeping him on MVS, a tall, fast wide receiver. What do you think about that?
I think it works well for him because he's a guy that obviously short in stature and his arm length was questionable. And I believe a player of his caliber, or he can learn quickly, but he's also his height and his length. He's the highest drafted corner that of that specific measurements that have been drafted that high before.
29 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there was a rumor. I'll have to look it up, and we'll talk about it next time. But there was a rumor that the guy measuring arms for cornerbacks was questionable. They were questioned. I don't want to say 100%, but I'm pretty sure it was questioned. So if he goes from 29 and a half to 30, then he fits the bill of a good corner, and definitely cost him a lot of money. Because if he has 30-inch arms or 31-inch arms, he doesn't get past pick 10. I think that I truly believe that. I think he doesn't make it past pick 10 and someone trades up and gets him, because he locked down corner. They don't look his way. No one. I mean, when I watch some of his clips at Washington, no one looks his way. No one does anything. The only thing I saw as far as technique is he likes to shoulder tackle a lot, but besides that, and that's something that can be easily changed with
that can
coaching.
Easily be coached, which is I'd rather that be the problem than anything else. In all honesty.
Yeah, but I'm definitely excited to watch him. And also, I don't know that if you knew that the funny meme that happened after we drafted Trent McDuffie, but the Bills GM literally was upset after we drafted him, and there's reports coming out that the guy they drafted actually is not doing a good job, and they're actually concerned with their cornerback room. No one's really talking about it besides the people that are like our Taylor and like the people that are actually in the camps. But it's definitely interesting what happened with that reaction that the Bills GM had.
Yeah, because they definitely wanted McDuffie. I mean, we don't call him Trenterception McClamps for nothing. I mean,
for nothing.
Showed it. Yeah. And
Yep.
I think the Bills, I mean, they really thought where they were sitting there like, okay, he's going to fall to us because none of these teams want to take a chance. And they thought he was going to work well with Tre'Davious White. And then suddenly they see that the Patriots traded and they're like, who is it? They immediately were like, we got to figure out who this is because they're like, it's going to be McDuffie if it's,
Hmm.
and they saw it was Kansas City and they knew exactly who Kansas City was going after. And so the GM of
Yep.
the Bills was just like, you've got to be kidding me.
Face palm, straight
Yeah.
face palm. It was it was clear disgust in that result. And honestly, they made a bad. I guess they made a knee jerk reaction from what I've read in camp. Is it seems to be a knee jerk reaction where they picked Kyler Elam, I believe that was his name, from
Yep.
Florida, uh, and apparently that's not working out. So it'll definitely be interesting because they had the injuries with Poyer. I know Tre'Davious White is coming off a major knee injury. I don't know if many people are talking about that, but it is definitely interesting how they're two of their main people on that defense. And you saw what happened when they lost Trey White.
Yeah.
The 13-second game happened. You know, the Grim Reaper came loose and just destroyed them. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited for Trent.
Yeah, and I mean, again, him working against MVS, a taller receiver, gets him kind of used to how he's going to learn to work against those taller receivers. So I think it's a great job by the Chiefs to be doing that for him to get him prepared because if it's a shorter corner, he has to sometimes take those cuts early, cut across somewhere that he usually a normal corner wouldn't have to. And so if you can train him against someone like that, I think we really have he could be a cornerstone for this defense for years to come if that does indeed click. And I think he's smart enough that he learns the game a little bit differently than everyone else. And I think that's what makes him such a weapon for this Steve Spagnuolo defense. And yeah, I'm excited to see it. I know we got preseason coming up. I don't know how much he'll play, but it's still exciting to see what potentially could be.
Absolutely.
And another corner to talk about, Joshua Williams. So for the moment they got to camp, I mean, he just immediately was up and out there. His work ethic, and we had the ability that he wanted just to learn so much. And he made a great play today against MVS. He picked off the ball. It was a little bit of shorter throw, but going from an HBCU to an NFL that's a big jump for him. And I think he is really up to the task so far.
I agree. He definitely has the eyes
Yeah, the eyes.
for the guy. He definitely has the length. He has all the tools, and I think he went to the best situation for him. Spagnuolo has produced several cornerbacks, and I believe he was handpicked from Steve Spagnuolo. So if he doesn't become the starter, I wouldn't be alarmed. I truly believe that he's a project. I think he was clocked as the fastest player at a Senior Bowl. So don't look at the 40 time. That I mean, there's a difference between game speed and track speed, and I think he'll be a project. I think it's showing it because they're putting him through the work, the ringer. They're throwing at him
Mhm.
like 1,000 times. So I think he's going to be a Spagnola project, and I'll be excited to see what he looks like at like week 10, week 12.
Yeah, and because I mean they're already talking about him being maybe kind of in some of those defensive packages, and as of right now, yeah, he may not be initially a starter or someone who gets a lot of rotations, but the idea that he's getting talked about in that light should be exciting. And yeah, like you said, I think Spagnuolo was like, yo, I got to get this guy. I got to see what he's all about. And I think there was a joke kind of going around like they liked the attitude of the player more than they liked the player. So, take that for
Yeah.
what you will. But I'm excited for Josh Williams. He was a guy that during the draft process I was looking at and I was like, that wouldn't be a bad guy to get on this defense. I think he'd work well for it. And certainly the Chiefs and Clark Hunt and Brett Veach and all them, they certainly thought the same way too. So this, defensive wise, this could be a great year because they seem energetic. They got a new purpose. Frank Clark looks healthy. He dropped what 35 pounds is what Chris Jones said.
Exactly. It's 35 pounds. And not only that, I got a feeling last season, a lot of stuff was kept in that locker room. I mean, if you talk about the whole Tyreek Hill saga that's been going on, not only that, like Anthony Hitchens stuff after games. Tyrann Mathieu literally go like from the end of the game into the locker room and was tweeting instead of conversating with the players, like literally in the game, getting on Twitter, conversating. And you're supposed to be one of those leaders. So I'm excited to see a new locker room that's not focused on their next payday, that's not focused on targets, and it's not focused on Twitter. Okay, because there's a bunch of idiots on Twitter, and you shouldn't be reading Twitter directly after a loss.
Right.
So
Yeah, I believe you're exactly right. I believe there was a lot of toxicity in that locker room that really just you could see it throughout the whole season. I mean, every time the defense was kind of getting a slump, and you expected those certain players, to be that leader, and you just weren't seeing it. And you saw a lot of lack of effort on some stuff, and you're just like, what happened to this defense? Because this isn't the defense that we're used to seeing. I mean, these are mostly the same guys. We've gotten some better people, but you're still seeing it looked like it got worse. And so you bring in Justin Reed to, replace the leadership that you had from Tyrann Mathieu. You bring
in a
in,
different way.
yeah, in a different way, in a different leadership, because Justin Reed, he just wants to be that motivator for everybody else. Not so much of a personal gain, but he just likes to,
Like
you
rah
know,
rah.
yeah, rah rah. And then you bring in his buddy Lonnie Johnson Jr., which brings that trust into the organization, so that it feels like you believe in him more than anything else. And so I think that was a good thing. I know Lonnie Johnson may not play a whole lot or at all. He may get cut or something, but you bring in that trust for Justin Reed that, hey, this organization believes in me. They were fully prepared to give me the people that I need to help bring this defense up. And I think that is a great thing.
I absolutely agree. So it is. I'm like I said, I'm excited to bring it in a team that a new locker room, a fresh new locker room that's not there's no toxicity or anything like that. It almost was with Orlando Brown. I was sweating bullets every day with the Orlando Brown stuff
Yeah, that
because
was a bit tough.
uh, but he came. I don't know if y'all watched the franchise episode, but even Beach walked up to Orlando and complimented his body weight and shape.
Yeah,
So
I think that
apparently,
communication between Veach and him, that was quite an interesting one, and I think I like that quite a lot.
I do too. I think, and from camp, apparently, I know last year camp he was struggling. Uh, in camp, and apparently this go around in camp, things are not the same. Like he's dominating. I know he dominated 2 1-on-1 reps with Frank Clark. Beat him not only on power, he beat him on speed. That's something that he struggled last year. Uh, so I'm excited. I don't mind paying the left tackle if it's good. I don't care
Right.
what the price is. I'm paying the left. If he comes out and plays like I expect him to play, what he's, has his full potential, I'm excited to see that because I want us to have a left tackle and an edge rusher. We already got the quarterback, but I want those two things. I think those two things are key for a long, 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 sustainable future.
Yep. I absolutely agree. And then, like you said, this is going to be an exciting team to watch. And even more exciting, we got football this Saturday, August 13th at 12 o'clock Arrowhead start. And we'll make sure to get a preview of that game. We'll have a post reaction, raw reaction after that. So make sure you subscribe to Chiefs Podcast Network for all kinds of your Chiefs sources, updates, news. We'll have it right here. I've been Jaden Varner with my friend Jacob Handy, and you've been watching the Chiefs Podcast Network. We'll see you next time, and good evening.